Councilwoman Ferguson, would you do the invocation for us, please?
Father God, we thank you and we give you all the glory and the praise. And we thank you, Lord Jesus, and ask for your blessings as we gather tonight to do the business of the city. We thank you for clear minds, and we thank you for peaceful hearts. Father God, I ask that you will bless the citizens of Glenarden, their families, and everyone that is participating in this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Councilwoman Ferguson, for the invocation.
You're welcome.
Right now, we'll have the roll call. Councilwoman Eason.
Present.
Councilman Herring.
Here.
Councilwoman Smallwood.
Here.
Councilman Williams. He's not here. Councilwoman Wilson.
Here.
Councilwoman Ferguson.
Here.
And Councilwoman Jones is here. Okay, we have 6 in attendance. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ferguson. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Eason. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Madam President.
Councilman Herring?
Yes, I'd like to add a topic of discussion, election information.
Okay.
And also I have a resolution that I would like to add for discussion.
Just a second, Councilman Herring. You said election information?
Information, yes.
All right, now, and your second item is what?
It was a resolution that I submitted for recounts. Election recounts.
Election recounts. I don't have that.
I emailed it to everyone. Should have had it.
You emailed it today?
Yes.
Okay, I see that in my email. So that came at 6:45 this evening.
Okay, well, I emailed it earlier than that, so.
Well, I'm seeing it at 6:45.
Well, it's there.
I'm saying it's there, but I received it. My email says it came in at
Okay, all right.
6:45 this evening.
Okay,
So this is a resolution for what?
to do a recount for the election on May 3rd. To actually procedures for a recount for any election. And I'm invoking the executive order that Governor Hogan instituted, that where we don't have to follow proper procedures because of COVID when for election purposes.
But we followed all the procedures for as far as the mail-in vote and everything else that pertain. Has this been presented to the election board?
I don't have to present it to the election board. The election board has absolutely nothing to say on this, on recounts. That is a decision made by the council.
Has it been vetted by the attorney?
I didn't vet it by the attorney. I'm not going to vet it by the attorney. I've reached out to the attorney. So he can look at it. He can look at it after we discuss it. I'll send it to him. But we set the rules on what a recount is. That's what the charter allows us to set the rules, the council, not the election board. The election board is beholden to the city council, not the city council is beholden to the election board.
I understand that, Councilman Herring. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll, okay, it says, let's see, let me look at my email. A resolution for the purpose to allow for a recount of votes after an election. All right, is there any other discussion from the council about the agenda? Any other things? Oh, I have one issue that I want to add to as a topic of discussion. An emergency ordinance for the election board will probably have to be taken up by the council. So we'll just put that as a topic of discussion. I think the resolution and their budget will be presented. It should have been presented no later than tomorrow. So it may have to be put on the agenda for Monday once we discuss that also. Any other topics of discussion or resolutions? All right, we'll take the vote to adopt the agenda. Councilwoman Eason,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Smallwood,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Jones, yes. All right, so the agenda has been adopted. Let me let Ms. White in. Okay. All right, the first thing on the agenda is a review of the minutes, and that consists of minutes for March 10th, 2021, a special regular meeting, March 24th, 2021, a special work session. The meeting was canceled. March 24th, 2021, an executive session, which was closed. That meeting was canceled. March 24th, a special work session. That meeting was also canceled. And on March 29th, a special work session. March 29th, an executive session closed. March 29th, a special work session. April 5th, a special public hearing. April 5th, 2021, a work session. April 12th, 2021, a regular meeting. And April 20th, 2021, a public hearing. Those minutes are in your packet for your review. If you have any adjustments that you need to make to them before we adopt the minutes next week, Monday, the 10th, please forward those to me and let me know what needs to be changed or what needs to be updated, if anything. All right. So now we'll move into the legislation for May. And the first piece of legislation on the agenda is an ordinance to establish Juneteenth as a City of Glenarden holiday. This is the second reading. This ordinance was sent to the attorney and rewritten. It looks like he rewrote it that it would be a paid holiday. Is there any discussion on this legislation?
Yes, Madam President.
Council-
So
I'm
he
sorry.
wrote it as a paid holiday.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you, Councilman Herring.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Wilson.
yes, within the piece of legislation, it speaks on that quite a few of the municipalities have passed this. Do you know what municipalities those are?
I don't have that information available with me right now, Councilwoman Wilson, but we can certainly have that information looked up. I know that 49, I read that 49 states have accepted that, but I would verify that before I would say that is true. But I read that in a email.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President,
Councilwoman Smallwood.
prior to the Mr. Kopinski writing this, did we make a decision that we was going to have a paid holiday for this? Is there money in the budget for this paid holiday?
Okay, I don't think that, I am sure if they made it, if it was going to be a holiday, there'd be money in the budget to support it. It wouldn't, it would be,
But did the council
would be
as a whole say this was gonna be a paid holiday?
uh, no, they did not. If you'd like to take, if you'd like for me to take a consensus of the council now to determine whether they want this to be a paid holiday, we can do that. Certainly, we can do that.
We need to find out because we need to make sure that money is appropriated in the budget for this.
Okay. All right. So I'll take a consensus to find out from the council whether they would like to have this as a paid holiday.
And let me, I got one more question for you too. I'm looking at line 36. It says 46 states, including Maryland, officially recognized June 10th. It didn't say that they had recognized this as a paid holiday. So how are they recognizing it?
Councilwoman Smallwood, I can't answer that question because I don't have that information. I would have to look that up, do research on it to find out how they're doing that. That was not something, it just says whereas 46 states, including Maryland, officially recognized Juneteenth. And now how the different, I know, and I think the state of Maryland recognizes it as a paid holiday.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make a suggestion that we'll hold this until we get all the necessary information.
Okay, this legislation is Mr. Williams. So, but let's do the consensus first, whether we, if the council is,
I need to take my motion first.
I didn't hear a motion. I just heard,
My motion was I recommend it. So my motion is that we'll set this aside until we get all the necessary information.
is there a second?
Second,
Second,
So this motion was made by Councilwoman Smallwood and the second was made by Councilman Herring. All right, so we'll take the vote. Councilwoman Eason to table this until the necessary, until information is researched to find out how the states celebrate the holiday and whether we want it to be a paid holiday.
Not only the state, including federal, because we do follow the federal guidelines for holidays.
I don't think that's in the new personnel manual. No, we don't. The
We
following,
do.
these are city paid holidays. And of course, Mr. Kopinski put it in the resolution, the following city paid holidays. These holidays are observed along with any other days designated by the mayor or council, not necessarily the federal or state. This is what's in the personnel manual.
What's in the personnel manual are all federal holidays.
They may be federal, Martin Luther King Day,
Federal holiday.
okay, but still the personnel manual says that these holidays are observed along with any other holidays designated by the mayor or council, not necessarily that we follow the
Okay,
state,
then we
federal,
need to
state.
we need to take that out.
All right, that'll be something else that I'll bring to the attorney's attention if it needs be.
Hmm.
All right, that's highlighted. All right, now to have this table for more information, Councilwoman Eason.
I would say yes to table, because then also you would have, if this is voted on in a affirmative way, you're gonna also have to update the personnel manual to include this if it's approved. Because right now this holiday is not currently listed as a holiday in the personnel manual.
Right, but that's why the resolution shows it at the holidays, and it shows it as it will be updated through this resolution.
Okay, I'll say yes to table it.
On page 2, line 1 through 12. Okay, so we have yes to table from Councilwoman Eason, Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Smallwood,
Yes,
Councilwoman Wilson,
Yes,
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Before I give my consensus, I had, this was brought up, when this resolution was brought up before, I asked various questions about whether it was going to be paid and different things, that have been presented tonight. And, while the attorney rewrote it, the council, or if I don't know about the mayor, but I know the council has not discussed it, and I think it should have been discussed. Whether or not it's gonna be paid or not, and not just because of the attorney writing something. So all the things that I asked have not been still presented. It was rewritten, but it's still the same question. So I would say to table it.
okay. Councilwoman Ferguson is a yes. Uh, The, So yes, it was rewritten by the attorney, but like you said, the questions, these questions that they had, this is at the work session now is why we're having a work session to bring all of these things out. So all of these things have been presented. And also, I'd also like to, for my vote, yes, we'll table it because we can certainly look up all the information that's being requested. But I'd also like to take a consensus on whether the council wants this to be a paid holiday so we can get that question answered. So once again, this is a consensus for whether the council feels it should be a paid holiday. Councilwoman Eason,
Pass.
Councilman Herring,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Smallwood,
abstain.
Councilwoman Wilson,
abstain.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Abstain.
and Councilwoman Jones will be a pass. Councilwoman Eason,
Pass.
thank you. And Councilwoman Jones will be a pass again. So all of the other information pertaining to this resolution, we'll get the information and we'll present it to the council once again. So right now, this resolution, this ordinance will be tabled. All right. Now, the next two pieces of charter resolution are basically doing the same thing. One for the finance contract procedure and the other one for the mayor, section 401, term limits of office. I sent those to the attorney. And once again, he came back and said that right now they are considered passed and done, but as far as if someone wanted to challenge these two pieces of legislation, that and it's certainly in their right to challenge it for the 21 days, not having the 21-day public hearing beforehand. He sent his letter that he sent, which I'll send to the council later on this evening, says that they should. Well, let me read the letter. Dear Council President Jones, please allow this to serve as a response to
Point of order, Madam President. That is a legal notice, and you really need to get the council's consent to read that publicly.
All right, I'll send I would like to have both of these pieces of resolution tabled. Make a motion to have them tabled until the council has an opportunity to read the attorney's missive.
Okay, Council President,
Councilwoman Smallwood.
while you having these table, my issue with this is when I brought this charter resolution back, it has to go through the same procedures that it did before. So why are these resolution back here with the dates on it? And why is the resolution have the same dates on it prior to the first time they was brought to the floor?
Because it was,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because it was determined that they would probably not need to be, we thought that they would not need to be voted on. But like I said, if we table it and then the council gets an opportunity to read the letter from the attorney, then you can see the reason why they were brought the way they were and why he's determined that they should be tabled until you all get to read the entire letter.
okay, okay.
Is there any other discussion on these two ordinances? Charter resolutions, I'm sorry. All right, hearing none, these two will be tabled. Charter resolution 01, that's not the right number, but these two will be tabled.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, don't we have to go through the same procedure that we did previously, getting a consensus to table it?
Yeah, I presented a motion. Is there a second?
I'm saying we didn't go through the full procedure.
Okay, I've presented a motion for them to be tabled. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Herring, Councilman Herring. Let's see, Jones, motion. Herring. All right, Councilwoman Eason to table these two.
Yes,
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Smallwood,
Yes,
Councilwoman Wilson,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ferguson,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Jones, yes. All right, so those two will be tabled. All right. The next resolution on the next piece of legislation is a resolution to execute a cooperative bid contract with NZI Construction Corporation for road resurfacing and related improvements in the city in Ward 3. Is there any discussion? There was a addendum sent out. I'm sure that the council clerk sent it with your packet to show that the correction on Barcroft as to where the that Barcroft is not all of Barcroft to Ardmore Ardwick Road is not included because that's not part of Glen Arden. So that correction was sent. Any discussion?
I got a question.
Councilwoman Smallwood.
Who's sponsoring this resolution?
I will sponsor the resolution. Robin Jones. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, that'll be resolution 43. And that will come to the floor. All right, the next piece of legislation is a resolution to execute a cooperative bid contract with NZI Construction Corporation for parking lots resurfacing and related improvements at the City of Glenard Municipal Building. And once again, I will sponsor this resolution. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Madam President.
Councilman Herring?
I guess my issue is that we're spending $78,000 to do the parking lot, which really is not in that bad of a shape when you can, or 73,000. When you can take that $73,000 and do another street in Ward 3. I mean, like I said, they've been waiting a long time to get the streets paved. And my concern is that that money can be better used somewhere else on one of the streets versus a parking lot, which is not really even fully being used now. So those were only that was my only concern with this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Any other comments or concerns? All right, hearing none. This will be resolution 44. And that will come to the floor. Okay, the next piece of legislation is a resolution authorizing the City Council of Glenard, Maryland to break for recess. Are there any concerns or comments? Hearing none, this will be resolution 45. And that shall come to the floor. Now, the next piece of legislation was a resolution by Mr. Herring, a resolution for the purpose to allow for recount of votes after an election. Any comments, any concerns?
Madam President, just let me give you a little background on that. We have nothing in our charter that with a procedure for recounts. The charter allows for recounts, but we have no procedures. And I think that we need to have some procedures in place to allow for a recount of the votes and after an election. That's basically it.
Okay, so was there any improprieties or any
The state allows for a recount of any vote after any election. They allow for a recount. I reached out to the state and they allow for a recount. And if the petitioner feels that there's something they're aggrieved by, or there's something they feel that something's not right, if they feel there's some doubt in that vote, you can ask for a recount. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to show any impropriety or anything like that. You just gotta feel that there's doubt in that vote. So if they feel like they want to do, if they feel they need a recount, they can ask for a recount. And I think that should be the right of any candidate.
Okay, Councilwoman Ferguson.
Councilman Herring, in your research, does that recount include funds? I mean, do we have to have such an action in our budget?
You can either have the money in the budget under the election, or you can have the that's the decision that the council got to make. In the state, they can set a price for a recount for the person to have a recount. But in the state, if the person who has the recount asks for the recount prevails, then the state pays for it. So it depends on what we want to do, you know. So you can have a nominal price for a recount, but if the person prevails in the recount, then they're giving their money back because the vote was not correct.
And when did you send the email? I don't seem to
You haven't
have.
gotten it? Yeah, I sent it earlier today, so
Okay,
I mean it's probably hung up somewhere.
okay, thank you.
Hmm.
I think the city manager is, Mr. George, are you on here? He's been working with the election committee. Could you shed some light on this too? Can't hear you. I don't see you muted, Mr. George.
Yeah, I don't know.
There you go.
You got me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure what's wrong with my mic. The only line I can shed really is that there were a couple of requests for a recount, and the election board referred that to the city attorney. Because as Mr. Councilmember Herring was saying, there's very little in our charter that discusses it. So the city attorney was going to weigh in on their thoughts on the recount, and unfortunately, he has been tied up the first few days this week in a case. And my understanding was there was going to be a conference call tomorrow morning with the election board to discuss the recount requests. So I don't really have a whole lot of information beyond that, other than I know that it's in the attorney's hands and they've been looking into it.
All right, sir. Thank you. And my other question to you, Mr. Herring, is you put in here a lot about the declaring a state of emergency and catastrophic health for that the governor implemented for when COVID-19 came along. So this resolution, you wouldn't consider this an emergency?
There's no such thing as an emergency resolution in the city of Glenarden, so you can't call it an emergency resolution. It's just a resolution.
Just for clarity's sake.
Mhm.
All right. Any other comments or concerns concerning this resolution? All right, hearing none, this will be resolution will be numbered 46. All right, so that concludes the legislation on this work session. The next item would be the city manager's report. Mr. George.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Madam President. You all have a copy of the report. There's a lot on it, so I'm just going to be brief, hitting a couple of things. We are going to plan a second PPE event, which we had talked about several months ago. We're going to do that now that the weather is nice. We're going to do that on May 22nd. We're going to put postcards out to the residents. This time, as Councilmember Herring had suggested last time, we're going to use actual addresses and we're not going to use the zip code methodology, which unfortunately last time was not as successful as we had hoped it would be. So we're going to use the same address labels to have a better saturation and get everyone information. I will also put it on the cable channel on our bulletin board, as well as putting it on the website and our social media feeds. So hopefully we'll get that worked out. Councilmember Easton and I had a very good work session a week ago and are nearly done with the site map for the website. We only have one final double check to make sure we got it all, and then she will be able to kick that over to revise and get them turning the crank on getting that page going, which is great. With that in mind, we have interviewed a candidate for the webmaster position and looked at a few, and this person is very well qualified, and we're looking forward to being able to bring them on. They're going through the last stages of the background check process, and once we get all that information through, then we can hopefully next meeting we can announce who that is. We obviously don't want to announce who it is until after they get through the check process, but we're hoping that that will be good and we can get them on board as early as June 1st. Held a I do, as you all know, we do a quarterly all hands admin staff meeting. So we have a chance for all the staff to hear from the administration and really for the administration to hear back from the staff. And it was a very good session, at the end of which we went through the new personnel manual and really hit, Karen Schultz led the discussion and really hit a highlight of all the big changes that were in that book, and offered an opportunity for anyone to ask any further questions. And we're going to develop an FAQ for any questions that come after the fact. So all the employees will know what changes are coming forward. Finally, I wanted to just say a thank you to the entire council. We picked up 2 of our 3 John Deere lawnmowers last week, and Public Works has put them to great use. And they're great. They're really good. So we got the walk behind and the big deck driving mower we picked up. The smaller deck mower we will pick up in June. They had a back order on those, but they work great. And I know the guys are very, very appreciative of the fact that the council thinks about them and has provided them with additional equipment so they can get their work done. Happy to answer any questions, but that's the report for tonight, Madam President.
All right, thank you, Mr. George. Are there any questions from the council? I saw Ms. Ferguson's hand first and then Ms. Eason.
Well, my question is not for the city manager. This is either for you, Councilwoman Jones, or Councilman Herring. I just, for understanding this, the recount resolution, I noticed that was given a number. So we don't have to do take it to a public forum or anything like that?
Good question, Councilwoman Ferguson. I believe that it should make, after thinking, we should follow the charter and should go to a public hearing.
Well, my thing is, again, with the governor invoking an executive order saying that you can circumvent the process when it comes down to election issues, that's why I'm bringing it. That's why I want to bring it to the floor. That's what was going to be done before when we were going to change it for mail-in balloting. It did not come to a public hearing because we didn't have to under the governor's executive order.
So you bring it as an emergency? Like I said, I didn't get the email. So I mean, the resolution is an emergency?
It has emergency in there, yes.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ferguson, but Councilman Herring, it has emergency in there in reference to what the governor stated, but we brought that the ballot information to the council as an emergency because we had to get the election done per the charter. This is not something that has, I mean, because it's in the charter to have a recount, but because there are no procedures, that's not an that wouldn't be an emergency now.
It can be constituted an emergency because it should have been done a while ago. It should have been done originally. So my thing is, it doesn't say when it had to be or what it had to be. It just said the elections, anything that deals with the election. And it even says in the governor's order, even when they're dealing with, I think, validity of the elections, it's also in there. So in the executive order. So that's what I'm going by in his executive order and bringing it forth without that. Okay, it says in his order, it says the municipality, it says the method is necessary to amend the method, conduct, or voting system of an election in a manner that ensures an accurate count and certification that of the election results. So we need to ensure that there's an accurate count. And
Okay.
that's what the governor's order says.
Well, thank God that there's going to be a discussion on this tomorrow morning with the attorney and the election board. But like I said, Ms. Ferguson has a good question. I think it should go through a public hearing because to me, it's not an emergency because we've already held the election. This was something in our charter, that it's always been there. And now, unless there was some complaint of fraud or then I can't see why we can't let this go to a public hearing. All resolutions, as the charter states, must go through a public hearing.
No, I received a number of complaints. So
Did the election board, they haven't come to the city and said that they've received any complaints.
did they receive any requests for recounts?
I don't know. I haven't interacted with the election committee, but like Mr. George said, tomorrow morning is supposed to be a meeting with the election board and the attorney. And I'm sure that Mr. George might be on that call. Am I correct, Mr. George?
Yes, ma'am.
Then that this can be, those, if there were, he can find out if there were any complaints to be presented to the election committee.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, I like, Mr. George, didn't you say something just a few minutes ago about the, that something had been said, that they had received something?
Yes, it is my understanding that there were two requests for recount, which is why the attorney was reviewing the code and the issues relating to recounts as Councilmember Herring was suggesting, the rules. When is one automatically triggered? How much does it cost? Who has to pay for it? All those things the attorney was going to look into and provide guidance to the Board of Elections.
So, Madam President, so according to Mr. George, he's saying that they have received requests for a recount.
Okay, all right, very good. But once again, like I said, this is not something that I can make the decision on. We need to have legal guidance on what and what cannot be done. And once again, like I said, just like in the charter, it states that citizens are responsible for the repair of sidewalks. Because it's not in there. Now I come up with a resolution on tonight and say, that they should be responsible, that the city should take on that responsibility, which that's something that personally I do believe should happen. But I can't bring a resolution and not have public hearing because I feel like Governor Hogan says due to coronavirus, that there's a state of emergency. That's just not that. I understand that there's nothing in the charter other than there's no procedures in the charter for a recount, but let's just wait and see what the attorney, what they say tomorrow. With the,
If I may, Madam President, I didn't understand Mr. Herring saying that we're going to determine if there should be a recount or not. I thought that his thing was to bring the procedures forth should there be a recount.
Okay, so
I thought that's, Mr. Herring, am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
So I think, Madam President, you're missing or you're adding to what he's saying.
I understand what you're saying, Councilwoman Wilson. But okay, then looking at this, if it's to provide procedures, there's no emergency to provide the procedures tomorrow or Monday. The procedures should be, like I said, I received this email at 6:45 this evening. this is about what, 8 pages of information that needs to be reviewed. And I have some questions concerning it on certain lines that maybe only the attorney can answer or an attorney can answer. And I do believe the charter says that all resolutions should be go through a public hearing. So.
Just to be clear on this, it's only 2 pages of procedures to read. It is not 8 pages of things to read. The other items is just the standard resolution lingo, and the actual procedures are only 2 pages long.
Okay, so where did you get these recount procedures from? What reference are you using? The state of Maryland?
The state of Maryland.
What manual are you getting these out of?
The state of Maryland recount guide from the Board of Elections. And I modified them for the city of Glenarden.
Okay, and then since we use Prince George's County Board of Elections to help us with the election, does the county in any way have a weigh in on this?
I went down to the county yesterday and talked to the election board about what was going on in the city of Glenarden. They said they've got numerous complaints about the election on Monday. They said they cannot do anything because the county does not get involved in municipal elections. I asked them about recounts. They take their guidance from the state of Maryland.
Okay, so that stands to me that since we are a municipality that created as a municipality, neither the state nor the county can intervene in our election. So like
actually, Ms. Jones, they can, because if election fraud is a crime that's punishable. So they can intervene, and the state can mandate, and a judge can mandate a recount. So I mean, to sit there and say that we can do what we want to do is not true.
No, I'm not saying that we can do what we want to do. We have a charter, and the charter doesn't mention anything about procedures, and you want to bring procedures. But like I said, this is a resolution. It's not an emergency. If it was something that, I mean, maybe this should have been brought up as we were bringing up building the election board and getting ready for the elections. And I see this as a resolution that maybe needs to go to a public hearing.
Yeah, that's your feelings.
So, I'm sorry. Is there any other question? I'm sorry, Miss Councilwoman Ferguson, were you finished with your question?
I was, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Easton had her hand up next.
Thank you. I just had to provide additional clarification to Mr. George's comment regarding the website. Basically, we took the site map that the committee developed, and then we actually did a web content gap analysis to identify what content was on the current website that could be used, potentially used on the new website mapping, which unfortunately wasn't quite a lot that could be used. So the webmaster or technical writer or whoever that the city hires, they're going to have to write a lot of content. But just like what Mr. George was saying, we're going to take one final review, cursory review next week, and then I'll send that final content mapping for the new site to revise. And then what they're going to do is just move the old content from the old website and migrate it into the areas of the new website. So, so I just want to provide additional clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for the city manager from the council?
Council President.
Ho. I'm sorry. The next person that I heard was Councilman Herring.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Mr. George, what line item are you paying the webmaster out of?
We're moving money from unused funds in admin to the webmaster line item from inside the admin budget.
From what line to what line?
Well, I believe one of the lines is the consulting line, because we have about $40,000 left in that line item. And we're only going to need, with only a month left, there won't be that great a need for the money to come out of that line item. And there's plenty of money left considering where we are in the budget year.
And have we factored in the work they're doing right now for the MLK site?
We have.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Council President.
Councilwoman Smallwood.
Mr. George, one question, and have you paid GS Proctor for their services?
I submitted those invoices today, and I reached out to Ms. Sims by phone and by email today as well to have a conversation with her and have not heard back yet from her. But those were submitted today.
Okay, now you spoke about the personnel manual. I'm in the midst of reviewing the personnel manual. We have suggested some changes to be made. And I'm looking at the personnel manual so far, and I found that a couple of the changes that we have recommended has not been changed.
Okay, well, I'd be more than happy to go over those offline with you if you'd like to. I don't have my copy in front of me, but we certainly intended to make all the changes that the council recommended. If we missed any, my apologies, and we can chat about it tomorrow. And we can upload those changes.
Well, give me a chance to complete it. I haven't completed the booklet yet, but I have noticed some changes that we had suggested that the changes was not done. So
Yes, ma'am.
give me until Monday, and I'll call you and set up a time that we can meet one day next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mhm.
Madam President,
Councilman Herring.
yeah, just one other thing, and Mr. George, you don't have to get back to me right now because I know you probably can't answer this, but there's no treasurer on tonight, right? There's no treasurer that's going to be speaking on the finance report, is there tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just on when you get a chance, if you can look under the administration budget, under the supplies, it's over by like $4,948. Could you tell me, when you get a chance, could you tell me why?
Yes, I will certainly look into that for you, and we'll get back to you with an answer tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Mr. George? All right, we'll move right into the Chief of Police's report. I think Captain Jackson is on here for Chief O'Donnell. Captain Jackson,
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
fine, how are you?
I'm good. But just real briefly, the chief report, you all have a copy of it. And I just wanted to make a comment on the homicide that we recently had. There has been no arrest in that homicide case yet. However, there is a gentleman that's in question that the U.S. Marshals Task Force is looking for. And that's all I have for the chief's report.
All right. Thank you, Captain Jackson. Is there any questions for the captain from the council? Any questions for the chief, for the captain concerning the chief's report? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. George, are you prepared to do the treasurer's report though? Even though there's not one on.
Well, I can certainly try to answer some questions, and if you all would like, we can certainly see about having Dean come to the meeting on Monday. If that would be helpful to answer any questions at that time, I can have him do that.
Is there any questions from the council concerning the treasurer's report? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is topics of discussion. The first topic of discussion is point of order, Councilwoman Smallwood.
Yes, last month, there was a citizen who called a point of order, and the council president didn't do anything about it. So let me explain to everybody what a point of order is. A point of order can only be called by a council member. A citizen cannot call a point of order, a point of order. At the time a point of order is called, the council president is supposed to stop, listen to what the question that the person who called the point of order, a decision is supposed to be made, and then we can go back to our regular discussion. It was very rude, nasty of this person to say point of order, and I got the floor. They was totally out of line, and the council president didn't do anything about it. So in the future, council president, will you please remember the proper way to handle a point of order? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman Smallwood. The next topic of discussion is election information. Mr. Herring.
Yes, we as council members are entitled to any information that is created in that building. I requested the electronic printouts from the election board, from the machines that were used in that election and have not been given them to this date. I'm not understanding what's going on. They should have been posted on the window like they've been done the past 50 years. I'm not sure why. We get an Excel spreadsheet with the vote count on it. I don't need your Excel spreadsheet. I need the sheet that you use to make that Excel spreadsheet. That's the problem. You know, information is, like I said, if a council member requests that information, it is not the election board's information to hold and determine when they're going to give it to us. They need to give it to us. And that's my problem. I also want to get, I also want to know where are the ballots that were cast in the election on May 3rd. Where are they being secured? Are they being locked up? The charter requires that they be held for 2 years. You know, where are they at? No one seems to know where they're at. You know, and as for Monday, the election day, there was issues on election day. First of all, the chair, Mr. Montgomery, who was the chair, blatantly violated the rule of the 50-foot perimeter. He came out there and tried to have me move where I was, and had people over on the other side of the highway saying that he's not going, that nobody can be on the property, which he had no right to do. The information they supplied to us said we had a 50-foot perimeter. That was well within our rights to set up a 50-foot perimeter. When I wouldn't move to 10, he called the police, and I said call the police. You know, and then I said this is what the rule is, and what did he say? Well, I changed the rules. That's not a leader. That's not somebody who should be in charge of an election board. So what did they do? They called the attorney. The attorney said, Mr. Herring, you and everybody else are well within your legal right to be able to campaign 50 feet away from the front of that door. And that's why everybody moved from over on the other side back onto this side. Because I wasn't moving, because I knew we were well within my rights. That's what I have a problem with. Also, I've got a lot of complaints that he had volunteers, which he should not have had, because the charter does not allow for volunteers for the election board. And these volunteers were telling people how to vote as they took them up the steps. I heard that over and over again from a number of people. Again, the election judges are not supposed to come outside of the polling station. They were in and out of the polling station. Mr. Montgomery, Mr. Ricky Montgomery talking to candidates, which they should not have been doing. They're supposed to be sequestered in that polling station and not come out at all for anything, not even for lunch. Lunch can be brought in or they can bring their own lunch in. So yeah, there were a lot of irregularities up in there. Conversations with candidates during an election from the election chair and the vice chair and the election chair's husband, that was completely inappropriate. So yeah, there was a lot of irregularities going on. There was a whole lot of things that people saw and people heard that they did not like. So I know they did not get no well done from the election, from the Prince George's County Board of Elections, because I was just down there yesterday and they told me they're getting complaints like a mug down there. So my thing is this, but the bottom line with this topic of discussion is if I request information, I want that information. Because if I don't get the information, they're gonna have to take it to the next level. And my thing is, what are they hiding? Why is it taking 2 and 3 days to give us the computer printout from the machine? Like I said, after that election, when that election was over and done with, and they got the printout, it should have went up on that glass in the gold room, and everybody could came up there to see it. Now they had 3 days, 3 days later to have those numbers, and then gonna send us an Excel spreadsheet. That's not an official document. Those reports are official documents. So my thing is, as a council member, all of us as council members, if we request information, we should get it. And I would like to know, where are the ballots from this election and where are they being locked up and stored? Like I said, again, this is the city of Glen Arden's ballot, election. This council is the one that funded the election. The council is the one that makes sure we have space for the election. The election board works on behalf of the city of Glen Arden. We don't work on behalf of the election board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. But I think the last thing that I saw, and even in the beginning, the election board said if there are any complaints or anything that you wanted to discuss with them, you could send it to the election website and they would address those issues.
Well, they got them right now. Like, I'd rather do it publicly, because it seems like when you send them an email, they only give it to who they want to give it to. It only goes to the chair. It don't go to the whole committee. And that was another problem. You had 10 people on the committee and only 5 were in there at any one time. You know, they had one poll person just outside greeting. You don't have a election judge outside greeting. That election judge should be in there working. So like I said, people had complaints. A lot of people had complaints. The nasty attitude, the way they were talking to certain candidates. It was just picking up candidate signs and throwing them across the street onto the rec property. And when asked why did they do that, because I'm with the Board of Elections. That's not acceptable to me. That's not acceptable. We've never had a Board of Elections that act as nasty as this Board of Elections, and changing rules as they go along. Because like I said, that 50-foot perimeter was one rule that I was sure I was going to challenge, and I challenged it and I won because they were wrong. And you can't sit there and say, I'm going to change the rules. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. The next topic of discussion is now that the election has been done, and we'll have to do a runoff for the mayoral election. The election board is going to require funding. And like I said, to let the council know that a resolution will be coming to the council for Monday, so that we can refund. I won't say refund, but just fund the upcoming election. We'll have to do an amendment to the budget in order to get funding for them to do the mayoral runoff. And this has to be done within 30 days after the election. So this is why I'm just letting you all know, this is why this emergency amendment to the budget for the election committee for funding for the to get the persons that do the election funded.
Council President, I have a question.
Councilwoman Smallwood.
Do you know how much money was spent on this election? Because we never got a budget.
They haven't, the election was just held on Monday, Councilwoman Smallwood. I'm sure that they're getting that together, but maybe Mr. George, do you have any information? Do you know if their budget is, I think they've already spent up to 30,000 that's in there.
Yeah, by my calculations, they have. I have requested a budget from them, and they're going to present that tomorrow. They also reached out to Electech to get quotes on what will cost to run a in-person only or another mail-in vote like we just did. So the emergency budget resolution that is being prepared will really have a blank on it. We'll get those numbers tomorrow, and then on the meeting on Monday night, the Board of Elections will present the 2 alternatives, present the cost, and at that time the council can decide what kind of a runoff election for mayor you would like to fund, and then we'll have to move money from the reserve into that line item to cover the cost of the runoff election.
Mr. George,
Yes, ma'am.
do you know as of today, how much money we have pulled from our reserve? All total?
I don't believe we've pulled any from the reserve. We haven't done any budget amendments, to my knowledge, not since I've been around.
Because to do a budget amendment, it would have to be presented to the council to approve. Isn't that correct?
Correct. So no monies have been, I mean, monies have not been pulled from the reserve into any one line item because the administration doesn't have the authority to do that. Only the council can do that through a budget amendment.
So are there any other questions concerning the resolution coming up for the budget amendment?
Yes, Madam President.
Councilman Herring?
So, okay. This is gonna be an ordinance for the budget amendment?
It'd be an emergency budget amendment, yes.
Okay, so it's gonna be an ordinance. Okay,
Yes,
my
sir.
thing is this, so in this ordinance is only for what they spend on the first election and money for the runoff, correct?
Yeah, it's anything over what they've spent once we see what their budget is, and then whatever monies we need for the runoff for mayor.
Okay, so this is one thing that no one has looked at yet. How are we gonna pay the election board members? Has that been factored in?
Well, that will be factored into the budget amendment.
Okay, now that doesn't have to be factored into a budget amendment. That needs to be a resolution. They need to come up with a resolution. Oh yeah, it will have to be factored into a budget amendment. You're right, because they spent all the money that they had so far. And the council hasn't even determined how much they're going to get. And that's something that the council should have addressed before now.
No. I mean, because I don't think that they knew that how much money they were going to have to spend to do this election, since the election was a fast track election. You know, I mean, I won't say that I think they did a great job, but the planning was a fast track. So there's no way that you're going to know off the top of, I mean, from the beginning, how much money is going to be spent. And then dealing with having to do the mailing of the election ballots. I mean, those things, because of COVID, there's no way we would have known those things.
Madam President, that's not the issue. The issue is paying the election, the Board of Elections, what they're entitled to for working that election. That you don't need to go through the whole process. We needed to say at the beginning, what are they going to get paid? Are they getting paid $125 for the day? Who's getting what? That's what we've always done.
If I might, Councilmember Herring, I believe the board was working off of I think there's a resolution done in 2007 or for that election that laid out the stipends that the board members would get, and that is what they were working off of.
But that stipend was for a basic election. This was completely different. This is a completely mail-in election. I mean, a mail-in ballot, and these people were up there till 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're saying they only get $125 for the day? That ain't right.
Well, I've worked in Prince George's County as an election judge, and they pay them regardless of what time we came in at 6 a.m. or 5:30. And when we left, we got paid $150 for the day, and that was it. They said we stayed until the final count was given for that precinct, and the information was turned over to the Prince George's County. So I don't understand how you can determine. I think if you look at election boards, Prince George's, Montgomery, and see what they're paying, it's going to all be a flat fee.
Madam President, just because the county is cheap, don't mean we got to, and don't mean we have to be. My thing is, again, the county have a lot of election judges on there. People are working, they usually shut it down, and if there's no issue, then you're usually out of there within an hour or two.
That's
These
not
people-
true, Mr.
these people
Herring.
were here. I'm speaking, Madam President. They're out of there in an hour or two. Our elections judges usually don't stay stay there no more than about an hour. From all elections I've been in, they've been there for no more than about an hour. And now these elections judges were there for till 1 o'clock in the morning. And that doesn't make any sense. Only people that's getting paid hourly is the chair and the vice chair, from my understanding. So they getting paid well. But the judges who was there doing the work, sitting at the desk, they getting $125. Well, if you think it's fair, that's fine with me. But I don't think it's fair, and I think it needs to be addressed by this council.
All
Council
right,
President,
Councilwoman Smallwood.
the last election that I worked, the judges got $300
Okay,
for the whole day.
that's interesting.
Cause the price went up. It used to be 150, now it's up to $300.
Maybe that was with the last election, but the election before, 4 years,
I'm not talking about Glen Allen election. I'm talking about the national election.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I worked the national election too, and we only got 150, and I still have my pay stub from that. So,
Well, then they cheated you because the last one that I worked, we got $300.
okay. All right, so any other questions concerning the emergency budget ordinance is going to come forth on Monday? I will, once Mr. George completes that with the attorney, then I will send that out tomorrow so that you'll have time to review it. Councilwoman Ferguson.
With the discussion of the budget, are we or are we not going to take in consideration to give a stipend to all the people? They were there late. And I mean, I do understand, I hear a lot of times that, when something comes up to say, well, this is what we did in the past or something, but they were there, they worked hard. And I think that everyone should get something. I'm not necessarily saying that it has to be 150 or 300. And I know it's a volunteer thing, but I just don't understand why just certain people would get something. I mean, they were there. And so I think we should at least be able to discuss it or consider everyone getting something.
Everyone will get something. I think all of the election judges get, from what I understand, is $125 for that day. I would have, and then I'm not sure what the chair and the co-chair get, but I know that everyone will get at least $125 for that day.
Okay, because
It's not that everybody's not getting anything.
Oh, I might have been misinformed because I thought it was just certain people that was getting the 125, a few people. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. All right, so any other questions concerning the budget amendment that's going to come forth? I guess once you all read that, we can, and it comes to the floor for the vote. Like I was told, this is in following the charter as to getting this runoff done has to be done within 30 days. So we need to follow the charter. These monies will have to be distributed for the election people to come, the persons I'm sorry, Mr. George, electronics,
The vendors Elect Tech.
Electech, okay. And so Electech can, prepare for the runoff election, and to stay within the realm of the charter, this election has to take place within 30 days. So these monies we will have to make a decision that this be done. So that amendment, that resolution or ordinance will come to the floor on Monday. Okay, so that was the last thing on topics of discussion. It is now 8:15, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. I appreciate your service.